And as ever, with Everton, there is plenty to talk about. And in a moment or two, we'll talk about the ongoing saga in relation to the sale of the club. But I just want to get your reaction, first of all, Rodger, to the news on Monday that Everton, of course, have been docked a further 2 points due to the second PSR charge. I know you've said on this programme before you are a glass half empty type of person. So I just wonder what your reaction was to that news on Monday.
Look, I think the range of expectation was somewhere between 0 and 8 points, that we might have gotten, and it's impossible really to even predict what these commissions are going to do, because they're different people. There's no real rule book. There's no real framework. There's no, menu from which if you breach by this much, it's this many points, and so on and so on. I was suspicious that the Premier League might have been a little harsher. And clearly, we know that they did ask for more points. I think that than we were actually awarded. And I thought that rather than double jeopardy, i.e., being punished for the same thing twice, we might have got an additional punishment for aggravation, if you like, for making the same mistake the following year. As it was, 2 points, probably at the low end of expectations. The club is still appealing it. And I think that's more a point of principle. We should still be able to stay up comfortably in the worst Premier League that there's been in living memory, I think, even with those 2 point deductions, because we have a couple of winnable home games upcoming against Forest and Sheffield United, sandwiched with the derby Forest and Brentford with the derby in the middle, and Sheffield United still at home and Luton away. So the team and the squad should still have enough to stay up, even with that points deduction. But it would just be nice to talk more about football than points deductions and commissions and takeovers and rules and PSR, wouldn't it? I mean, I think fans are pulling their hair out. In fact, frankly, they've had enough of it all. It's become boring. We seem to be caught in this never-ending spiral, purgatory, if you will. Where's the end game? Where will things improve? And it's difficult to see that on the horizon with all this confusion, as you say, around 777.
It is indeed as well. And, clearly Everton Football Club said that they will appeal the decision. They talk about the inconsistency of different commissions. And I think it is that perceived inconsistency, isn't it, that has been the major issue here for Evertonians and also for the club itself.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There can't be consistency when there isn't a matrix of punishments that you can pull on. So it's going to be inconsistent, and the rules are an arse, really, aren't they? However, all the clubs signed up to them, and Everton were one of the clubs that signed up to that. It's just the Premier League are pretty incompetent. The fan base, not just Everton fans, but fans of other clubs, see everything being geared towards the Sky Six, if you will, and rules being put in place that are just protecting the interests of those who, when the music stops, happen to have a lot of money. Now, Everton back in the day, and Everton at the founding of the Premier League in '92, Everton were one of the 5 clubs right behind it. And obviously, during the Mashiri years, we've had an awful lot of money too. We've managed to waste it, though, and that's really what's gotten us into this pickle. And, I think a brighter future is still some way off with so many uncertainties.
And of course, Rodger, there is this situation as well where any appeal clearly is not going to be resolved until after the season is over. And that potentially, of course, could leave all parties open to legal charges if, say, for example, another club is relegated based on a decision that is subsequently then changed.
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest nonsense, isn't it? That frankly, Everton's appeal, the final date for a conclusion to that is, I believe, the Friday after the end of the season, after the final game away at Arsenal. And that's an absolute piece of nonsense for all participants. Whatever the drama of the final day of the season, and speaking as someone who was there on that, that final day against Wimbledon, you want to know that when the final whistle goes, your outcome is certain, whether positive or negative, and it's totally unsatisfactory that it might be still determined by some faceless people, nameless people on an appeal board a few days later. That's totally unacceptable to fans of any club.
I think there is a sense of relief amongst some Evertonians and also some of those connected to the football club, that the points deduction could have been worse, and that now the club, the players and the fans, they need to push on and get the points needed on the pitch to avoid relegation. It's now about what the players can do for the remaining 7 games, and I guess you share that view as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the players have already, done their bit to an extent. They've got a bunch of points which, if you add 8 to them, would see us largely comfortable. I know we went on a horrific run after the very good run of 4 wins in a row, and we didn't win a game from the 16th of December until, that victory against Burnley. So I think that's probably the most significant, is that we've remembered how to win a football match, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin has identified the netted area in between the post and the crossbar, and that's where the ball needs to go, because fundamentally that's the only way we're going to get more points is by putting the ball in the back of the net.
And 7 games remain, and I think, you can't underestimate, can you, any of these teams, because, yes, you've got teams like Brentford, Forest and Sheffield United at the bottom of the league still to come against Everton, but these are teams that are going to be fighting for their lives. So you can't underestimate the opposition that's going to come from these teams for the remaining 7 games.
No, you can't. And Everton players, fans, etc., can. The fans have a real part to play and have shown that both home and away, but specifically at home where there are more of them. We can, really generate an atmosphere, and there's been an awful lot of good work done to do that. With relatively little reward, because obviously the away performances have tended to be better this season. Everybody's got to play their part, and I think that there should be enough there. There really are enough opportunities, critical games against Forest and critical games against Luton away. And I think winning both, or maybe even only one of those, should be enough, because they're genuine 6-pointers.
But as you say, it's not just the situation on the pitch that we need to consider, because the saga, which I think is the right word to describe the sale of the club, continues. The latest news is that the prospective owners, 777, have asked for more time to pay off a loan that the Premier League has said is one of the obstacles to completion of their takeover of the club. A £158 million loan to MSP and 2 local businessmen is due to be repaid next Monday. Now, I believe, Rodger, it's not entirely clear whether MSP will agree to the extension. But if they don't, does that put Everton's short-term future in even more doubt, would you say?
Look, there is a deadline, reportedly Monday, that this loan has to be repaid, and it has to be repaid to MSP. Now, frankly, I don't know, and there's an awful lot of speculation as to what the various outcomes could be. They could agree to an extension. 777 have been in talks with various American private equity providers who may lend them the money that they need, not just to meet that, but the other conditions, such as putting out money in escrow to keep the club running, cover working capital expenses for the remainder of the year, and also the balance of what's due on the stadium. But we need to remember that there are also leverage rules, so no more than 65% of the price paid for the club can be funded with debt. And 777 aren't actually cash rich. They borrow money and invest it, or they're looking to borrow money, a leverage buyout, if you will. I see that as being problematic in terms of meeting that percentage, and I'm not sure 777 are as creditworthy as people as they need to be in order to secure finance of that nature. What MSP do then is anybody's guess. In theory, they could put the club into administration. That would be a 9-point deduction and almost instant relegation. Can't see that being in anybody's interest. Least of all, although MSP have a charge over the assets of the club, stadium would be sold and they get their money back. Seems to me to be a very brutal and unnecessary step to make. I also think that they may choose to give an extension, or they may choose to take up the security, which they could call in on the facility of taking over a controlling stake in the equity of the football club. That may sound attractive, getting half of Everton for £150 million or thereabouts, essentially. But you are then inheriting those remaining liabilities, both to rights and media funding, for example, and indeed, although totally unsecured and at the back of the queue, the thick end of £200 million that 777 themselves will have put in by then. Who knows? Monday's a big day, but being Everton, it'll probably get the can kicked down the road a little while. I think it's impossible to call, and really all fans can do is kind of try and block it out and focus on the team and getting the points that are needed to keep us in the Premier League, because outside of the Premier League, the future is even bleaker. It's a long old way back.
It is indeed, and as you say, Monday will be a difficult day, a big day for Everton, but also on the pitch as well. Everton away at Chelsea on Monday night, and Rodger, that's clearly going to be one of Everton's tougher games, isn't it, in these final few weeks?
Yeah, it is, but Chelsea are, the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team. And latterly we've had a decent record of maybe pinching a draw there, not losing, performing quite well. Monday night, I'm sure that there'll be a passionate bunch of Evertonians there at the bridge, and you'd give us a chance. It's just the goal scoring that is the problem. You talk about these other clubs around us, Forest, Brentford, Sheffield United. Well, not Sheffield United, they're down, but Forest, Brentford and maybe Luton. They've all got pacey attacking players and they seem to carry more of a goal threat than we do. But keep it tight, get to half-time, Sean will be happy, and then maybe pinch one. And it's a game that you wouldn't have your mortgage on Chelsea winning, so a little bit of confidence and keeping things tight to begin with. But having some threat on the counter, I don't see any reason why Everton can't get a point from there. I mean, Burnley got a point there, for God's sake, so if they can, so can we.
And of course, Everton go into the game knowing that they've secured 4 points from the last 6 in the Premier League, and that must play on their mind, and they must think that, they are picking up points now on the pitch as well. In relation to the team news, Dominic Calvert-Lewin should be available again Monday, despite a minor hamstring strain, and Idrissa Gana Gueye and Onana will return. Danjuma is also expected to make the squad as well. So it's an 8 o'clock kickoff away at the Bridge, Chelsea against Everton this coming Monday. Rodger, really good to talk to you. Thanks for your thoughts today. There's a lot to talk about. Clearly, we'll talk again at some point in the future. But for the moment, it's good to get your contribution, and we'll see what happens on the pitch on Monday.
Thanks very much, and hopefully next time we can have a more positive conversation, and hopefully things will have actually crystallised a little bit, and we'll be able to see a future and a bright future for the football club.